a.m. and worship at 10:30 a.m. every Sunday via Zoom until it is safe to hold large group functions in our building. If you are joining us for the first time this morning, we extend a special welcome to you. We invite you to stay with us on Zoom after the service concludes, when many of us enjoy greeting each other and sharing conversation. It would be a pleasure to meet you if you are comfortable introducing yourself. We also invite you to see our website at uuormond.org and look for the welcome button under the picture of our minister, Reverend Kathy. There you will find out how to become more connected with our congregation and learn more about Unitarian Universalism. And now on to announcements for the good of our community. The link to the Zoom service is always on the UCOB website. For the best audio experience, invest in a good set of headphones and use them. Collections continue through the end of the month for non-perishable foods to be given to the Dollinger Food Bank. Please contact Helen Casoli for more information. Lifelong Learning will virtually present Stephen Estabrook at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, September 23rd from 4 to 5:30 p.m. Watch for the link in your email. The African Spirituality webinar is September 24th, that's a Thursday, at 7 p.m. Email spiritualityaacs@gmail.com with the notation African Spirituality Zoom meeting to get the link. There will be a congregational meeting immediately after the service today. The Board of Trustees will present a proposal for building and grounds renovations to be voted on by our members. In the absence of a physical passing of the offertory basket at this time, we invite you to make any smaller donations in honor of our virtual worship services or in financial support of the congregation through our PayPal donation button on our website. For larger donations or pledge payments, checks sent to UCOB are appreciated. At the sound of the chime, our service begins.
Our call to worship this morning, the words of Krista Tavis, adapted. Whether we have come here with heart full or heart empty, with spirits high or low, rested or tired, hopeful or despairing, whether we have come here out of habit, conviction, loneliness, or curiosity, we belong here because we are here, and all that we have and all that we bring are welcome here. This morning, we are together, the heartbeat of this congregation. Let us worship together.
I invite you to light a chalice at home if you have one nearby. We light this chalice this morning as a symbol of the eternal creative force that burns and moves through our universe, that lights in us and in all creation change, transformation, and renewal. Let them shine in our hearts today. And now please join me in reading together our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our aim. To dwell together in peace and freedom, to seek the truth, and to help one another, these are our goals.
Our joys and concerns this morning. The Taylors have a joy. Last week, Tracy and Jan's daughter Charlotte gave birth to a healthy and mostly happy baby boy named Tobias. All are well, including father, and they hope to see them all soon. And a concern, Dan Kerr's brother, who lives in Merritt Island, has been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia and has been hospitalized. Dan is currently going back and forth to tend to his brother and assist his sister in finding long-term care, sister-in-law to find long-term care. Dan and Rosemary have no need for help at the moment. Rosemary is on her feet again and doing well. Please keep them in your heart and prayer during this difficult time for them. Cards and letters of support are welcome. And for all the joys and concerns which remain silently on our hearts this morning, will you pray with me? Spirit of life and love, bless us this day with the understanding that joy and woe are woven fine, that whosoever brings us tears also brings us great joy. The hours before dawn are often the darkest. Spirit of life and love, bestow upon us the peace which passes our understanding, so that hope, faith, and love may fill our hearts and still our worrying minds. Spirit of life and love, in this difficult time, bid us to strive for our best selves each day. Let our striving be for justice, equity, and compassion in our human relations. Inspire us to create beloved community in ever-widening spheres. Spirit of life and love, we give thanks for this precious day and for all that is our life, for we know that our life is a gift, freely given, unbidden, and unearned. We give joyous praise for this, our one precious life. Amen. As you may recognize, I can't mute myself when I'm playing the song or any music. And so when you see my lips moving to the music, of course, I'm not uttering a sound. Probably that's a good thing. I am so out of practice singing, and I just want to say that I'm just really longing to sing that song with you out loud in the same room. And I'm holding the day that will be so, I'm holding that in my heart. Today, as promised, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the report of the Unitarian Universalists Commission on Institutional Change. I will recommend that we read the report together and as a congregation and discuss the contents and recommendations and perhaps consider any changes in our congregational life together we would like to undertake in response. The issuance of this report could not have come at a more critical time, a time which members of this commission could not have anticipated in terms of the pandemic and the chain of events which followed the death of George Floyd in May of this year. When the members of the commission presented highlights of their report at the virtual General Assembly in June, they said their worst fear was that their report would be read and then forgotten, as is the fate of so many institutional publications. Personally, I don't see how that could be possible during these compelling times when racial justice issues could have been at their most intense in decades. Yet, for the moment, perhaps, given our privilege and relative insulation from the violence of unrest that comes from long endured racial injustices in this country, we could do just that, ignore this report. But woe be to us if we do, for what is contained in these pages is not a condemning critique of what we got wrong in our association, but instead an insightful assessment of who we could become if we engage the transformative work of undoing white supremacy culture in Unitarian Universalism. I say that if we don't do this work, we are headed for extinction as an irrelevant monocultural religion. But if we engage this work, we ourselves have the opportunity to grow tremendously in spirit and community as we embrace the voices too long silenced or ignored, voices rich in cultural diversity, creativity, and life-affirming joy that can bring the power of a covenanted universal love back into our faith tradition and breathe new life into our long-standing call to bring about beloved community, a heaven on earth into our midst. A key event leading into the 2017 General Assembly and the formation of the Commission on Institutional Change was what has become known as the hiring controversy. In retrospect, it was a kind of leading indicator of the need for institutional change. I've talked a little about this from the pulpit as it hits somewhat close to home. Here's what happened. In 2016, the lead congregational life consultant for the Southern region, for our region, Ken Hurto, which many of you know, announced his retirement. In March of 2017, Scott Taylor, the director of congregational life at the UUA, offered the position to a white male minister outside the Southern region serving a congregation in Arizona. At the same time, Scott told a qualified applicant for the position, a Latinx religious educator within the Southern region, that she was not the right fit for the job. She did not agree and took her grievance to the Board of Trustees of the UUA. Her complaint was obvious. She had been overlooked as a female, person of color, a non-minister, or to put it another way, a white male minister in one of the highest ranking positions within the UUA sought to replace a high ranking position previously held by a white male minister with another white male minister. Not the right fit was perhaps a poor choice of words, but undeniably revealing. A cascade of events ensued, which led to the resignation of the three highest ranking officers in the UUA: the president, Peter Morales, the chief financial officer, Harlan Limpert, and director of congregational life, Scott Taylor. All three positions were filled by the UUA board with two or more people. Many of them were qualified persons of color. For instance, Sophia Betancourt, William Sinkford, and Leon Spencer, all persons of color, served as co-presidents until Susan Frederick Gray was elected president at the 2017 General Assembly in New Orleans. Alondria Williams, layperson of color, and Barb Grieve, white male minister, served as co-moderators after the untimely death of Jim Key in 2017. It is not surprising that the work of the commission revealed a profound truth about the institution of our faith. Religious educators of color in our association, quote, in their words, endure countless insults and aggressions as part of their work, end quote. It is clear that within a professional framework, the institution of our faith privileges ministers, which is a bit surprising to me given our congregationalism, but then again, it's probably more about patriarchy than hierarchy, and I'll have more to say about that in a minute. I thought that it was important to convey that the commission members who convened in August of 2017 to plan and organize their work discerned at the time to be their guiding principles in the work to end oppression within our association, these premises that you see on your screen. They tell us where we've been and where we hope to go in the transformation of our religion. We need a fuller living into our Unitarian Universalist theology. We need to address dysfunctional expressions of our theology and polity, our governance, and that requires transformational work. The covenants that bind us have become frayed and broken by white supremacy culture among us. And to stay alive and relevant, Unitarian Universalism must center the silenced voices and dismantle white privilege in our faith tradition. And then finally, multicultural and multi-generational expressions of our faith should be sources that guide our transformative work. Now, I invite us to engage this report as an entree into our study this fall of racial justice issues as they hit very close to home, and as an effort to familiarize ourselves with the workings and issues of our larger association. It seems to me our congregation lacks a sufficient connection with the regional and national workings of our faith, and a stronger connection could fortify our identity as Unitarian Universalists and lend us a better understanding of the religion we have chosen to join. The report has 12 chapters, which I have divided into 3 parts: the Association and Congregational Life, Religious Education, and Institutional Change. And I propose these as 3 sessions of review and discussion of the contents. Now note that I've highlighted theology, which is what I will take up in my homily shortly. We've heard it said often these days, these are unprecedented times. The pandemic and the tensions caused by racial injustice and divisive politics are phenomenal in the true sense of the word. What is happening in our association today is a microcosm of the larger society in which we live and have our being. These times will be talked about for years to come. We are living history now. Let it not be said that we slept through this extraordinary time. Let us engage this report on widening the circle of our concern. Now, as an interlude, I invite you to listen to a UU performance of We Shall Be Known by the Company We Keep.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these vibes. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these vibes. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.
What saddens and confounds me the most about the hiring controversy is that Scott Taylor, Harlan Limpert, and Peter Morales walked away, seemingly without looking back, from their institutional, ministerial, and religious commitments. The foundation of our faith is relational, yet among them there seemed to be no attempt at correcting missteps, reconciling differences, or even acknowledging that a troubling pattern of leadership had emerged. They were and still are all ordained ministers in Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. And it seems there was a significant disconnect between the theology of covenant at the very founding of our religion and the administration of their duties as executive officers of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Now, a word about this critique. I'm personally acquainted with Scott Taylor. He was my internship mentor. Some of you know him as the creator of Soul Matters, the program that we subscribe to as our small covenant groups. Scott Taylor is a good egg, as he used to call me, Limpert and Morales are good guys too. No one outside of these three really knows the full picture, partly because it was a personnel issue which requires confidentiality. But we can have confidence that what happened was really about the systems, values, policies, both overt and tacit, that were in place when these good guys came into it. This demonstrates the need to know deeply the foundations of our faith and to keep them in front of us. Ours is a religion uniquely bound not by creed, dogma, or shared language and belief around God, but by covenant. Covenant for us is a solemn promise, and our promise to each other is to walk together in right relationship as we explore our different truths, practices, beliefs, and theological understandings. We have evolved from Christianity to religious pluralism. Today, Unitarian Universalists are committed to freedom of belief. But this doesn't mean freedom from belief, and it doesn't mean believing anything we want, because we are also committed to interdependence, justice, and a set of values which calls us to create beloved community in the here and now. Where we have strayed, perhaps, is losing sight of the balance between the individual and the communal. If in our pursuit of truth and meaning we wind up navel-gazing introspection, we lose sight of our commitment to beloved community and the acknowledgement of our interdependence, such that my flourishing is inextricably bound up in yours. And even though I can spend a lot of time and effort in denying that, your suffering is mine as well. Another way to look at this is through the universalist lens of salvation for all. At one time, this had a heaven and hell component to it, but today, universalism means that all are worthy of dignity, respect, and a place at the communal table. Today, universalism means we don't privilege some voices over others, especially when it comes to the societal and institutional aspects of life, which affect us the most. Universalism brings us into the purview of social justice. We pride ourselves on justice work outside our walls, yet we are blind to the injustices which exist inside our walls. Here again, we've lost sight of our theological underpinnings. We often do justice work without understanding why we do it, because our actions are not grounded in a shared theology of salvation. Collective salvation today means justice, equity, and compassion for all our fellow humans in this life. Without this shared understanding among us, our justice work supplants our need for religious and spiritual practices. Without the latter, we become easily disconnected from our religious commitments, which can lead to burnout, apathy, and insularity. From our Unitarian roots, we embrace the notion of faith coupled with reason and the confidence that we can discern for ourselves what is truthful and meaningful in our lives. This is a great triumph over unquestioned dogma and creed, yet we must be careful that the search doesn't become too atomistic. Overemphasis on our individual experiences can lead us to forget the experience of others among us. Our search for truth and meaning can lead to the creation of beloved communities of exploration, innovation, and creativity, but only if all voices are invited into the search and heard. The communal should always be the locus of our theological understanding. Finally, we as Unitarian Universalists today must come to understand the idea of liberation in theological terms. If we believe in collective salvation, then we must also believe in collective sacrifice. This means that we are called to share in the efforts to bring all in our midst to a place of equity and share our power in the process. There should not be small groups of UUs in the trenches making personal sacrifices for the good of the whole. For instance, we all need to be on the front lines of this racial justice work, whether or not we are directly affected by the prevailing injustices. When one among us suffers, we all suffer, and we can't, if we can't extend this to the entirety of humanity, the least we can do is extend it to our fellow Unitarian Universalists. If we are truly grounded in a liberative theology, then we cannot stand on the shore waving as our fellow UUs of color are drifting in a sea of oppression and marginalization, all the while saying from the shore, "Our prayers are with you, holding you in our hearts. We support you." No, we must be willing to get in that boat and help find a way back to the shore. This is the only way salvation can be collective. This is the only path to the liberation of all who share our faith tradition. This is the only way to live into the theology of Unitarian Universalism. Thus, I invite us all to wade into this report, widening the circle of concern, and discern what it means to us as members and friends of this congregation, and perhaps find a deeper understanding, commitment, and practice of our Unitarian Universalist faith. Let us ask ourselves, how wide is our circle? I hope that it may be so.
I invite us now to join in extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our benediction, A Power at Work in the Universe by Tom Shade. My friends, there is a power at work in the universe. It works through human hands, but was not made by human hands. It is a creative, sustaining, and transforming power, and we can trust that power with our lives and with our ministries. It will sustain us whenever we take a stand on the side of love, whenever we stand for peace and justice, whenever we take a risk. Trust in that power. We are together, held by that power. Go in peace, friends.